So this reminds me what you just said about the dots and things being too large and having to sort of compress them or make them fit. You tell a great story that I think is truly a terrific illustration of what you're talking about, and that's okay. You've got a vase or a vase, and you've got a box, and you have to ship the vase in this box, but the vase is too big for the box. So what do you do? And this is, I think your this story that you tell about the vase and how you get the vase into the box sort of really illustrates well.
Well, the vase is, and I refer to it in the book as a handmade vase, something that came from a human creation with no structure intended, no actual structure on an engineering sense.
Right.
Okay, so the vase is sort of a metaphor.
It's a metaphor, right?
For all things in nature that are not definable. Okay, it's not currency. You can do that in dollars and cents.
Right.
But a vase is something that has form. It has depth. It has a dimension that can't be quantified in dots and in numbers. Especially, I believe can never be quantified in numbers. I mean, you get into the God particle of that. That's another story. But I do believe that it's a limitation. So the box is a metaphor for modern technology, the ability to deliver information.
Right.
Okay, and to convey information, and more importantly, to store information for the idea of replicating it at another time.
Right.
Okay, so the idea in the book I talk about. So you have this vase, and you need to get it stored so that you could recreate it somewhere else. Mm-hmm. Well, the way you would do it, and think about digital, would be as if you took the vase and you made a grid, okay, vertical, horizontal grid, with as many lines as technology will allow, okay, and you essentially mark each square, every single square, and you label it, and you put it down and say, this square goes here, this square goes to this parameter, et cetera, et cetera. Now you take the vase and you cut it up into those squares, okay? Now you can fit that big vase into that little box, okay, which would be your hard drive or your data center or your cloud server, whatever it may be, okay?
Right.
Then you can take that box and those little data pieces, and you could feed them one small piece at a time down this tiny little pipeline, which would be either our internet or our modern, satellite transmissions.
Services, things like this.
Yes.
Yeah. Right.
All right. So basically, now you've taken this vase, which you're never going to deliver in one piece unless you're going to hire some third-party, delivery service. Okay. But you've brought it down to a thing where you can feed it in increments, and then on the receiving end, they take the increments. And theoretically, by using your map that you made when you broke everything into pieces, you rebuild it. With the notion that what you're going to get on the other side is
the thing itself?
Well, I mean, some people would be so bold as to say it's an identical,
right,
image or a representation, identical representation. You'd have to be foolish to even consider that.
Right.
And the reason for that is because when you're cutting that vase up initially, you're losing pieces. There are little pieces of dust that go to the ground. There's tiny little nuances that are just going to be too small to be labeled, okay, and too innocuous to be identified. This piece of dust, we got a pile of dust here. Where'd it go? Did it go between piece number E54B or did it go, right?
Right, no. Understood,
so all of this is gone. I mean, it's like once you've cut this vase up, this is gone.
Right.
No one's taking that and bringing it to the other
it's
side.
It's on the cutting room floor.
It's gone.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So now you've rebuilt this on the other end, and you're professing that what you have on the other end is similar enough that the person who views it will get the same impact as they did if they saw the original vase.
Okay. So so if we were to if we were to think about this in one other sort of metaphorical term, on Star Trek, right? They would get into this transporter, and it would be like, beam me up, Scotty. And you would be reassembled, you know, theoretically, you would be reassembled at the end of whatever beamed you up, and you come back, you know, to the ship again, and you get reconstituted. That's a fantastically utopian version of what you're talking about, but all of the particles could be assembled again and you would be real. What you're talking about, and this is, I think, what's interesting,
Is the fly.
Is
The fly.
the fly. Go ahead.
Okay, that's what Jeff Goldblum. Remember Jeff Goldblum?
Yes, of
and
course,
who's
yes.
the woman he married, the lovely actress?
Gina Davis.
Gina Davis. Okay. And that's what he did. He was doing the transport and the actual story, The Fly. Now, mind you, these are way beyond before I was born.
Of course.
Right? You too, Jeff. I mean, somebody briefed you. I know this. Okay. But to the point, The Fly was the similar transportation thing, but The Fly got into the chamber when he went, and then he ended up taking on certain DNA of the fly.
Right. So they sort of cross-pollinated.
Yes, exactly.
Yes,
exactly.
okay.
All right. So that, I mean, the fly was a takeoff on that. I mean, I don't know
Right.
if was that an original H.G. Wells concept.
I don't know. I don't know exactly what the sort of trajectory of that narrative is,
But you're exactly right, though. It is a transporter. Think of the transporter.
Yeah, right. So, but here's the thing that I think is interesting about this metaphor that you set up with the vase and everything else. Like, okay, so we're missing some parts. We're missing, like, and people would say, "Come on, it's dust. How important could it be?" But
right.
this is, I think, one of the cruxes of the book, and that's that. Because the book is part treatise and it's part memoir, and it's almost, it's a manifesto at times. It's an unusual mix of subjective and objective elements. But your jumping off point about sound and how humans experience it, right? Largely through music, we're using as the metaphor or as the vehicle here. So what about when people hear it at the other end of this and they're missing these components? What's so important about these little pieces of dust that, your argument is that they're very important, that those things that you're missing are really the things, to the point of, I believe you use the term biophysical responses, that what we're missing is a core element of really understanding something the way it's really meant to be versus the simulacra of it.
Right. Well, that's something that I was so fortunate to learn from my career. When you're in a room and you're tracking an album with I don't care if it's a major artist or if it's some local person. I mean, if the talent's there, the talent's there. Mm-hmm. With the mindset that's in place now, and unfortunately it becomes a process in place, you only need to perform a song once. Why do you have to perform? Why would you perform a song twice in a studio? You got the notes right. And I could tell you that I've been with bands and some very just unbelievably talented people where they might play the song 10, 15 times over a period of 2-3 days, and one of them does something. There's something happens. Mm-hmm. People call it the magic, whatever you want to call it. Okay, the vibe is there, the aura is there, and you get chills. You actually will feel like a chill happen because it just grooves in a way. Now, that's just with the fundamental basic tracks, mm-hmm. Because in a lot of the pop songs we do, obviously you put down your drums, your bass, and your basic guitars first, and then everything's additive. Mm-hmm. So if you take that where you're getting your really emotionally impactful basic tracks, and then you're taking that same method for every single track that's laid on it. I mean, okay, so we have this track now. Does that mean the guitar player plays it once? No, you start all over again. Then the vocalist. So at the end of it, you get something that, it'll bring you to tears, or it'll make you aggressive, or it'll make you want to dance. Mm-hmm. But that in itself is living proof of how many variables mm-hmm. there are. And, why do we need to, with the modern technology now, everything is, it is pretty much done with computers. That's the whole argument of holistic versus technological.
Sort of, we can loop this, we can make this perfect, we can quantize this, we can.
It's called lifeless precision.
Right.
You
Okay.
know,
Right.
and the reason why it's lifeless precision is because you're resolving something to a predetermined point. So let's say you got a groove, right? I mean, and that's what's called quantizing when the drum machines first came out, the original Linn machine and the Roland DMX and even the Fairlight CMI. So you would quantize. That means if you hit a note, it's going to move it to whatever point is closest. That's not where you intended. So if you had a drummer, something like Steve Gadd or even Steve Smith from that band Journey, or any of those, and they would hang back on certain parts, and then they would push other parts, and that gives you an emotional reaction. It gets you to where you're on the train, you're on the move.
You're breathing with it.
Great, Jeff. Great.
Yeah, right?
Exactly. Yeah,
Right.
you're breathing with it.
Right.
Well, that resolution's infinite.
Right.
It can go in an infinite amount of places.
Right.
Not so. Because in binary, it's got to go either here or here. It can't go in between.
Right. Okay.